Hi everyone, my name is Moin and it's been a bit while since I've posted anything on my blog. While looking into the SSIS Bids studio the other day at some client's place, I did figure out that sometimes it happens is that you've got a table like let's say this and you don't have the option to split up the comma delimited values where you do want to compare them as like let's say one. Also, sometimes the data is so unclean that you can also have values which are like over here in this case. If you have a look on this, it says test2 hyphen test3 hyphen test4. So how to get the data arranged from this format into this so that it can be compared with a lookup at a later stage? Let's have a look on that. I've already got a table over here with the name of split string. Not a good name for table, but yeah, it would do. Right, and if I run a select on it, it shows me these values over there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write a custom script which will split these values into the data flow by adding them onto as asynchronous and see how it works. So let's get started. I've already got Bid Studio over here. I'm just gonna create a new project. Call integration service project, name it as split. If you've seen my previous post, you would pretty much know that what a sequence container is. I'm not going to go into any details in terms of the sequence. It's just a logical grouping. Take a data flow task. And what I would need is a scripting component now, but first let's configure this. So I'll go into a new connection. I've already got connections here, and if I have a look, I think it's the victories database. Click on OK, go to the table, skill command, select. There you are with the data. I mean, ideally what we would be doing here is that we will be arranging this data with hyphens into a new row which would say 9 test, 9 test, 9 test 2, 9 test 3, 9 test 4, IDs on the left side and test strings on the right side. I'm pretty much sure as I'm going to walk through this tutorial you would understand what I mean. So I'm just going to go to the columns, click on OK, add a new script. And I'm gonna use a row count just to check the number of rows, that what's the output that I'm getting. Name it as Right now I'm gonna do a little bit of scripting, so let's get started with it. I'm gonna change the language to VB script. Have my reasons. I'm sure you'll know when you'll work a bit more on SSIS and especially Visual Studio 2005. Gonna go to my inputs and outputs. Just going to add a new column called and I'm gonna change its data type to, let's say, string. Oops. Do remember to change this to synchronous as none, as we are adding the columns on the fly. So, and the output buffer would be just changing the name. So once that's done, just gonna use read script here, and I'm going to do something here actually. Right, so let's get started. First, what I would need is basically the splitter. So let's have a compile this first. Right, so what I'm gonna do is basically I'm just gonna take a splitter. We've got comma and we've got hyphen as a string splitter. So what I've done is basically just taken an array, a string array, and assigned it these two splitters. So if we get anything like a comma delimited value or a hyphen in this case, it would be split it into the new string. So let's get the new array. And what I want to do with the entries which are empty, just remove them actually for now. We can keep them as well, but we don't have any null values over here, so what's the point? Even at the end of the strings in between where you've got like two commas, don't see any value which is blank. Now this is basically the output buffer which we just created actually. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add a new row, and I'm gonna change id new to, and I'm gonna change the new string which we just created to right. Tells me it's got read only. So let's go to my columns. Wonder why I've got, let's make it, leave it 50. back to our script. And we'll see it. We've got 0 error, 0 warning, 0 messages. Okay, so what's gonna happen is when the data is gonna come in, it's gonna split it up onto this column, which is called test string, which we've got over here, and it's gonna then create a new row into the buffer, an output buffer which we've just created over back in the script, and that buffer would then create a new row with the ID basically, which is being retrieved from here. I mean, it will copy the ID against each of these. So this is the item basically which we're getting from here. So let's run it and see what we get. But before I run this, let me double check my script. That's fine. Just gonna attach the data viewer to view the output. So just gonna leave it as this. Click on OK. Just gonna attach another one over here as well. Right, let's save this package and run it. Okay, so this is my data which is passed into the stream as input. This is the output. Now if you see over here, what I've done is splitted it up so that we can have 1 against test 1 up to 4. Then we should have 2, it will go up to 4 as well. Then we will have 3, which should go up to test value here. Sorry, it's after these. Yep. And then we're gonna have 4, which is gonna start from test, and it's gonna go till test 4, which is there. Now the interesting part is, I mean, I have put the delimiters for both the comma delimited values as well and the hyphens as well. So if I look on the 9th, it should give me a good idea like test, test, test 2, test 3, test 4. So what it's done is it's basically taken both of those delimiters, comma and hyphen, to reorganize the data. And I think that's about it. What this achieves is that basically if you've got a lookup with different categories or items or anything which you want to compare at a later stage, by splitting up a in-memory text instead of copying it onto a new raw file or copying it to a new table, I think that's the fastest way I can come up with. Thank you.